Yes, welcome back. Senator Abba Moro joins us this morning. He's the minority leader in the Senate. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Pleasure.
Your motion, Senator, urgent need to halt the erosion of democracy about the dissolution of elected councils in Benue State, which was moved on the floor, is causing some ripples. The state government said that through some of their representatives that this is an ulterior motive on your part and that you're not being forthright about some of that motion because they thought that history has shown that certain things, a similar matter happened previously, but you seem to have condoned it. So give us some background why you moved this motion in the first place.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning and to say that I don't have any ulterior motive when it comes to the motion that I moved as to the erosion of democracy, especially at the grassroots level. I don't have any reason, have any ulterior motive. And if they are fair to themselves, and I don't want to go into details here, but I have consistently counseled the government of Benue State on this issue of dissolution, on this issue of sacking of local government councils. It was not correct, especially at a time when we have the Reverend Father, Home of Affairs, not to be the usual politician that do things because politicians do, make a difference. Because the people of Benue State, I'm of PDP extraction. The people of Benue State repose some level of confidence in the governor. And by extension, the expectations of the people very, very high. These are made clear to them. So, when this issue started, I made every effort to let my voice be heard. But unfortunately, it has come to pass because the political class put a lot of pressure on the governor. And unfortunately, he yielded to it.
But political class made the governor do what he did?
Yeah.
Okay, so what exactly is wrong with what has happened? Could you trace it for us?
Well, let me say clearly from the beginning here that the Constitution doesn't provide for caretaker committee. Emphatically, the Constitution in Section 7.1 clearly states that a system of local government by democratically elected council is under this Constitution guaranteed. And there is a plethora of cases, judgments by the Supreme Court condemning the constitution of caretaker committees of sole administrators. 2 years ago, precisely 2 years plus ago, the Supreme Court ruled in the case of Ekiti State, the sacked council chairman, that the governors do not have power to sack local government councils and constitute caretaker committees or appoint sole administrators. And even went further to say that the state houses of assembly do not have powers to dissolve councils, and that the state governors do not hide under laws made by the state houses of assembly to dissolve elected councils. And so, I mean, the Constitution says, the Supreme Court says, these are the supreme judicial institutions in Nigeria.
But in this case, they argue that the governor did not sack the chairman. The assembly did not nullify the elections. What happened was that there were corruption cases, they were investigated and then suspended. And so in order to avoid the lacuna, in terms of have a vacuum in those areas, they just put some people to run it.
We're talking about elected councils, for instance. Why hide under the euphemism of suspension, sack, dissolution? The most important thing is that the councils, not just the chairman, the vice chairman, or the councillors, Benue State has 23 local government councils. That means 22 chairmen and 23 vice chairmen, 23 secretaries. Benue State has 276 council wards. That means you have 276 councillors and other officials that are there. And so, for crying out loud, we're just turning truth on its head. Otherwise, how can you now say you investigated 23 local government, 276 council, and all of them have been found corrupt? And in any case, if you find somebody corrupt, prosecute him. Prosecute him. And the procedure is very clear on that. So, because somebody is corrupt, so if they accuse somebody, the state governor, for instance, now, remove immunity, they accuse him of corruption. You investigate him, EFCC investigates him, then the president removes him from office. It's not correct.
But part of what they also said was that prosecution is on, but this council chairman will not show up for their time to be prosecuted, and so they were left with no choice. Is that valid?
You know too well, the law has procedures. These local government council chairmen are there in Benue State. They are there till tomorrow. I can call my local government council chairman now and she will tell you that she's in the village. They are there. Vice chairman, they are there. And if you want to prosecute them and you need them and they are not making themselves available to you, the police is there.
But why did they say that this council chairmen were not even really elected? Because I think Mr. Onje was talking about the fact that they were brought in by Governor Autumn and they just wrote down their names and filled the place and you didn't speak up at that time, and so why now?
This is the point I just made. It's very, very unfortunate that people who should know. And unfortunately, the young man who just left here now, somebody who pretended to want to be a senator to represent me and the good people of Benue South Senatorial District. How can I say that? Local government elections, all of us have been complaining here. I, for one, I sponsored a bill in the 9th Senate for the administrative and financial autonomy of local governments because of the things that are happening there. Some states, about 3 states, paid us, including Benue State. It's on record. And I complained to them. Even as your son representing you, I sponsored a bill for the autonomy of local government, you refused to pass it. Only about 21 or so states passed it. And we needed 24. So we couldn't get it. And I'm taking it back again. That one day somebody will reason with me and the rest of Nigerians that the local government needs some level of autonomy to operate.
Senator, are you implying that the governor doesn't care about the people in his state enough to look at how the local government chairmen have administered those local governments?
Well, I don't think I'm in a position to say that the governor doesn't care or he cares and the rest of them. No. If you ask observers and followers of the government of Benue State, I'm of the PDP. But the governor knows that I support him. In every action that they are taking from the beginning till this moment, I have supported him, including setting up his government. I was in the forefront of those persons who said, look, the governor deserves some level of independence to work. And I supported him. And at that time, they called me names, especially my party. But I didn't care. So the issue now is not whether the governor cares or he doesn't care. The issue now is that the actions that the State House of Assembly, as they are insinuating, has taken, and the governor has said he followed the recommendation of the State House of Assembly, is wrong. And what is wrong is wrong. And the point that I continue to make is this. The Constitution is very clear on what to do. And so you cannot go against an elected council, whether elections in Nigeria, we all know, have been riddled with some malpractices and irregularities and the rest of them. That there was irregularity, for instance, in the election of council chairmen that have stayed in office for over a year. It's not enough for a new government to come and say, go. Because
the concern, if I'm coming, the concern is not irregularities in the election. The concern is that there are complaints that the council chairmen were not even properly elected. Let's put that to one side. Let's come back to the Constitution that you quoted. It says Section 7.1, where you talked about the powers given to the State Assembly to, let me read it clearly here. subject to Section 8 of the Constitution, ensure their existence under a law which provides for the establishment, structure, composition, finance, and functions of such councils. Yeah. That means the State Assembly has the power, or implies the State Assembly has the power to look at how they are spending their finances. And so if the State Assembly does an investigation and sees that something's wrong with the way this council chairman have carried on, they made a recommendation to the governor. And the governor took action to ensure that the funds are not depleted further. Yeah. And that is a bother to you? You're saying there's a procedure that was not followed when they have been given the powers by the Constitution to do this?
Well, I think that we should, you don't read the Constitution as it pertains to the state houses of assembly in isolation of the entirety of the Constitution. Mm. Don't forget that the same Section 7(6) empowers the National Assembly to provide for the allocation of funds to the local governments. And so, if for any reason you say there is infraction, like I said, the procedure is very clear.
But there's also the B part, where they say the State Assembly also has the same powers as the National Assembly.
I also want you to know that with this Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, any law made by the State House of Assembly that is inconsistent with any law made by the National Assembly is to the level of that inconsistency null and void. That is the truth. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Mm. And the National Assembly makes laws within the jurisdiction, within the ambit of the Constitution, on any matter, on any part or system within Nigeria. And so, if you make a law or you make a recommendation that is not correct, that is not just, then to the extent of that inconsistency with the Constitution, it's null and void.
So, if they had recommended that they be suspended for 3 months, would that have been in order?
Of course. If they had recommended that they be suspended for investigations to be carried out, but honestly, let me tell you, I'm from Benue State, and I know what took place.
What took place?
What took place was that the council chairmen submitted their report on the activities as demanded by the governor to the governor. And they sent the report, the governor sent the report to the State House of Assembly to look at. Under 24 hours, the State House of Assembly had looked at the report and had recommended that the local government council chairman should be suspended. And under the same 24 hours, local government council chairmen were pronounced by the House of Assembly suspended. That was what took place. Of course, the governor later took ownership of the suspension. Okay, if he decides to do that. But the truth about it is that procedures were not followed. And these council chairmen were not given fair hearing chance to defend whatever they claimed they had done wrong. That is the truth about it. But the truth again is this. The law is very clear. Not the governor, not the State House of Assembly has power to dissolve a democratically elected council. And in place of them, a caretaker committee. That is an aberration.
They said they didn't dissolve them.
Don't bother about whether they dissolve or not. The press secretary to the governor talked about former council chairmen. He talked about council chairmen who were sacked because they were found culpable. So, what is the difference between sacking somebody and dissolving the council? Because it's all of them they sacked. What is dissolution? They have been ousted from their constitutional responsibility by their election. And that's the truth about it. So whether you say sack or suspend or dissolve, they are mere semantics. The truth about it is that these local government councils have been deprived of their responsibility to act. They have been ousted from their responsibility to act. I don't know what else is dissolution.
But Senator, if in the event that, assuming they had made recommendations that they be suspended for 3 months because they found them wanting for anti-graft cases, And we know the nature of investigations in here. Sometimes it could take longer than that. And if the law doesn't provide for more than 3 months, wouldn't there have been a problem with the entire process if the agencies cannot sufficiently deal with this matter in 3 months?
Do they have any law in place that empowers the House of Assembly to recommend suspension of elected council chairmen? Do they have any law in place that authorizes or empowers the governor to sack them and put in place a caretaker committee? There's no such law. Granted, but not conceding that the House of Assembly can make law. Did they make the law? And only yesterday, when some members of the House of Assembly, in an executive session of the House of Assembly, disagreed with what they were going to do, 20 of them out of 31 said, well, if you people want to go ahead with this matter, go ahead with the matter, but we will not participate. And so they refused to attend the plenary. And what happened? We went to the plenary without any motion, without any procedure. The speaker hit the gavel and said that 4 of them have been suspended for 3 months. That is the lawlessness that is taking place in Benue State. It's not correct. And we must rise up against this thing, because as it is, they say when the goat eats from your farm and from another person's farm, and you overlook it because it's not your farm, if it finishes from eating that from that farm, it will come to your farm.
All right, let's bring in our colleagues from Lagos.
Yes, thank you, Chamberlain. Good morning, Senator Moro. It would seem, listening to you so far, that you're saying that the real substance of the matter really is about, party differences and not necessarily about, whether the local government chairmen are culpable, particularly with regards to the allegations of corruption leveled against them. I recall that you said that we're all 23 of them found to be corrupt. And tell us exactly what this pressure that you referred to earlier on from political parties that the governor has been bound by to act this way. What exactly is the pressure? Which quarters, is this pressure coming from?
Well, the pressure is coming from supporters, of course, because the pressure certainly is coming from the party supporters who think that it is their turn to occupy the political space, and that they don't have any reason, the governor didn't have any reason to allow chairmen and councillors elected by a different party to continue in office when the supporters are roaming the streets, and they deserve to, having supported the governor to become a governor, they deserve to be appointed into the government at the local government level. They see it as their own turn to participate in the system. Don't forget that in the course of debate on this motion, distinguished Senator Adams Oshimole, who was himself a governor, did say that during his time, he met a council elected by a different political party from his own party, and that he was under tremendous pressure to dissolve the councils and appoint his own people, or his own party people, as chairman and supervisory councillors, but that he resisted it and lived with them until their tenures expired. The tenure of these councils that we are talking about now has barely 6 months to expire. And so I think that the governor and government of Benue State should have exercised some restraint and some patience and allow the democratically elected system to expire.
Do you mind naming these party supporters?
I mean, party supporters across Benue State will spend the whole day here naming all of them.
Perhaps you'd
I'm
like
not sure that becomes necessary now.
Okay. If you say so, Senator Moro. Also, Mr. Onje, who just left, said that this is more about you losing control of your local government and not necessarily that you have altruistic intentions in the motion that you presented, specifically on Benue State. Is that the case? Are you losing control of your local government?
How will I lose control of my local government? My local government is not peopled just by the chairman and vice chairman and 5 supervisory councillors. I can assure you that as far as I am concerned, I'm in touch with my people, the fight is for my people, and they appreciate the effort that I'm making to ensure that justice prevails. And so I in no way lose control of my people at all. Don't forget that I'm a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, representing 9 local governments in my constituency. And so I have no problems at all. I know that the reality on ground is that the APC has taken control of the government of Benue State. I'm prepared to live with it. But for the sake of the people of Benue State, I'm also prepared to support the governor to achieve results, to succeed. Because if he fails, Benue State fails. And I'm a Benue State citizen. And so I don't have any problems at all with the governor. Okay, if in 6 months, if the tenure of this council expires, the governor is going to conduct an election. And he has the privilege of ensuring that his party people, party supporters, also win election and become councillors and chairmen and vice chairmen. I don't have any problem with that at all. But the truth about it is that whether party A or party B, what is wrong is wrong. And this one, certainly as long as it's wrong, contrary to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that we all swear to protect, I think it is wrong.
There are a couple more from me, but I'll take just one, Senator Moro. Although you have said that you intend to represent your bill for administrative and financial autonomy for local government, but pending that time, it seems as if what we have on our hands is a constitutional crisis. On the one hand, the governor does not have the powers to sack local governments, although what we have seen in Benue State is a dissolution. But on the other hand, the Senate has expanded your motion to include other local governments where there are no elected council chairmen. But the president does not also reserve the powers to withhold local government allocations from local governments, whether or not there are elected chairmen presiding over those authorities or not. So how do we solve this seeming constitutional quagmire?
Well, we can solve this crisis, this constitutional crisis, by abiding by the law. By abiding by the law. That is the only solution for it. And let me tell you, I just read out a section of the Constitution that empowers the National Assembly to provide for the allocation of funds to the local governments and the councils. And it's logical that if the National Assembly has powers to provide for the allocation of funds to the local governments, then by extension, I want to aver that the National Assembly therefore has power to know how the money is expended and by who. And as far as the National Assembly is concerned, the caretaker committees in Benue State and other states are illegal contraptions, and therefore it will be illegal to allocate funds to these illegal contraptions. That is the truth about it, and that is what we're insisting on.
Senator Moro, just to be clear, and now we know that a good number of cases, particularly even as far as the Supreme Court, have made it clear what the position of the Constitution is about local governments, authorities, as well as the relationship between the local government authorities and the governor should be. But just to be clear, how would you describe the action of Governor Alia of Benue State in terms of his role in this whole thing, given what a number of people have said, that it is not the governor that dissolved the councils, it is the House of Assembly that suspended them? How would you describe that action and that of other governors who have done something similar?
It's illegal, it's unconstitutional to dissolve democratically elected local government councils, whether it is in Benue State or in any other state for that matter. As we are talking, counting, and still counting, we have almost 17 states that operate these illegal caretaker committees or administrators. By the Constitution, by the pronouncements of the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, these are illegal. And they must be halted. They must be halted. Because like I said, it is a matter of who bears the cat. The system must find a way to correct this violation of the Constitution.
Good.
And that is the step that we have started taking now. So, and extreme situations require extreme solutions. And so somebody certainly will muster the necessary political will to ensure that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is protected.
Good thing you mentioned political there, Senator Moro. Now, many times when issues of constitutional, imbroglio, tiff or whatever like this come up, most of the time we tend to defer to constitutional, or beg your pardon, political solutions. And perhaps that is the reason that this particular issue has gone on until now. Several court rulings, even presidential pronouncements have not been able to suspend or even curtail this process. So the question then is how? Yes, you've talked about what the Senate has done. And of course, the governor has also admonished the Senate to go back on its word and not suspend the allocations to local government administrations in their states. So the question is, if we're going to deal with this issue decisively, how? How far can the Senate or the National Assembly take this particular matter? And what's the assurance you have that this will be decisive?
Well, thank you very much. It's very, very, very unfortunate that we are where we are today. The Constitution is very clear. We all swear to abide by the Constitution, to protect the Constitution. But where you have this forward and backward pronouncements, when people are afraid to take responsibility for the actions that they take, then it's very unfortunate. Here we are, there is a violation of the Constitution. It has been brought to the fore, to the front burner of national discourse. The National Assembly, if you witness the debate on that motion, distinguished Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari from Oyo North did say that this is a wake-up call, that the National Assembly will go a lot further to make necessary amendments to our laws, if possible, even the Constitution, to ensure that the Constitution is protected. Because as it is now, the Supreme Court has pronounced on the illegality of caretaker committees. Yet, over 17 states or thereabout are operating illegal caretaker committees in their states.
In that light, Senator Moro,
a state like Anambra, for instance.
Yeah, my apologies. In that light, who should be calling the governors to order? Who should be curtailing the activities of the governors? Who is going to say that to the governors or to the houses of assembly? Because the governors are going to say they are only obeying what the houses of assembly have pronounced, or what their resolutions have been. Who is going to suspend or curtail this process so that we can protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Unfortunately, in the unfolding scenario, it is the houses of assembly that should call the governors to order. Because some of the actions of these governors, as long as they violate the Constitution, are impeachable offenses. And who impeaches the governor? It is the State House of Assembly. But unfortunately, from what we have witnessed in Nigeria, the State Houses of Assembly have become mere appendages of the executive government of the states. To the extent that when the National Assembly passed a law for the independence of the Houses of Assembly to be on the first line charge, to take charge of their own destinies, some Houses of Assembly, unfortunately again, including the Benue State House of Assembly, voted against it, voted against their own autonomy. So that is the extent to which the whole system has been bastardized. And so, like I said, we need to amend the Constitution to provide more teeth for the Houses of Assembly to operate. Okay, and that's the only way we can solve the problem.
Two things seem to come up here. In that motion that you moved to withhold statutory allocations to local government councils, in Benue State in this case, where there were no democratically elected officials functioning. and by extension, probably if it happens in other states. Will this apply to other states, though?
Yeah, because that was my first prayer, or the last prayer, and it was amended to include other states where councils have been dissolved and caretaker committees put in place.
Okay, so now it appears as though with this, looking at this, it will come across as if these governors are doing these things to take charge of the funds that go to those local government areas. Why are you stopping the funds from going there?
That is exactly what is happening. Because people confuse the provision of Section 7 to the extent that states should make funds available to local governments for their operations against Section 7(6) that provides for the National Assembly providing for what the Constitution, the intendment of the Constitution as to the state providing funds for the local government is the internally generated fund of the local government. So that in addition to the money that comes from the federation account, the state governments were supposed also to distribute funds within the state, within the ambit of the funds of the state, not the statutory allocated funds. But unfortunately, what has been happening now is that state governments take over the funds of the local government. The local governments have become cash cows for state government.
So what kind of...
In my time, let me tell you, in my time, funds were directly allocated and released to the local government.
Did it work?
It worked. I was chairman of the local government. I used my funds. I didn't have any interference from the state government.
But the governor had to tell you what to do or what not to do, what kind of projects you're going to back up?
Never. I had free hands. Ask anybody who observed when I was chairman of the local government. All the clinics and health centers that I constructed, I wasn't directed by the governor. The civic center and the hall that I built, I wasn't directed by the state government. No. Incidentally, it was the SGF, current SGF, that was governor of the state. I was Agon chairman in the state.
So in seeking amendments to the Constitution, what areas should you be looking at as regards the security of the position of the chairman and interference on the states?
What that desire for amendment included was properly defining the joint account, which has been abused. We used to have a joint account meeting, even in my time. But indices that were used to allocate funds to local government, and it varied from local government to local government. It also depended on how much the local government performed its own part. That was the basis of which monies were allocated. But now, what is happening in some of the states is that monies allocated from the federation account are pulled together in the state and distributed and redistributed, which is unfair to some local government. Because in my time, for instance, I had only 458 officials, staff. Other local governments had up to 1,000. So they use my money now, as it is operating now, they use my money to pay the salaries of local governments that were not prudent enough to maintain a prudent size of staff. If a small local government has 1,000 staff, then they use the money that they put together now to go and pay their salary. It's not correct. It's not legal.
All right. This is a matter we'll look to see in the future because you say it requires more teeth. So we'll look to see what kind of laws or amendments will they make this time that will work and will not turn out as, the last time where the Buhari's government, the AGF, the governors didn't agree on funding the local government directly. But we're out of time. So we'll reach out again and see if we can make our time to have some further look on this matter. But I want to thank you for coming on.
We want to make sure that funds of local governments are directly sent to them.
Okay.
We want to make sure that local states don't have power to interfere in the administration and the financial transactions of the local government.
All right, Senator Abba, Moro, Minority Leader, thank you for your time here today. Well, that is the show as well. We thank you all for watching. Dixon, Kunle, we appreciate all your messages. Festus, thank you all, but we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Usod. Goodbye.
Goodbye. I'm Neota Ibi.
Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Ayo Makinde.